Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Once you guys can see and hear, just confirm in the chat, and we're gonna jump straight into it. You guys gonna need your book. You're gonna need a pencil, because today's session it requires you to do some drawing, and I really need to put you guys to practice sketching some of the patterns on your own before we do it because it's really a training session, okay? So get everything that you need. We're going to begin in about 1 minute. Okay. All right, so let's jump straight into it. Just a quick introduction to the question. But before we start, let me know if you guys are ready. If you have everything that you need, which is your book, your pencil, or your pen. Like I said before, we're going to be doing some drilling, and it's important for you guys to do the drawing before we do it together so that you could start practicing. All right, so I see two persons ready. I see Myrtle, I see Janella, Cloris. All right, so while everybody else let me know that they're ready, question number 7 is really all about picking up patterns and sequences and looking at the details that they give you and knowing the tricks of doing those stuff. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off, we're going to go straight through each question starting with January 2022. The thing about this question is that every year they create a brand new pattern. So that is why it's important. You can't just practice one and think you'll be able to do the others. So it's a skill. So the more you see, the more you understand what the trend that CXC uses, you'll be able to start learning how to do it on your own. So this is why I was telling everybody, this session is important because it's not something where you teach like content and you memorize. You can't memorize it. You have to learn how to do it on your own. All right, so let's get started. So every other question, based on what I've seen, some years they ask you to draw the 4th pattern or the 3rd pattern. Some years they don't. So this is January, and let's take a look at what they did in January. A sequence of figures is made from lines of units and dots. The lines from a series of octagons. And if you know, an octagon is a polygon with 8 sides, right? So they said, give us the first 3 figures in the sequence. So what you need to do is start picking up what the pattern is. So if we look here, we realize the first figure solely has just the octagon. The second figure has 2, but what is different about the second figure? They also added 2 squares to the top and the bottom. And to create that square, they only had to add these 2 lines. So these 2 lines and 1 extra dot. Everybody seeing it? So even though it's a brand new shape added, it really only required 2 lines and an extra dot. So let me try to get the dot in a different color. All right. And so every time you add an octagon, you have to ensure you look at the squares. So let's see what the first question is asking us. For figure 3 of the sequence is shown by itself below. Add more lines of unit length and dots to create figure 4. So you see, luckily for you, CXC actually gave you the same thing as the third figure. So you just have to add on to create the fourth. So my first question is, we're going to do this together. So all I need to know is, do you think you'll be able to draw the fourth figure on the paper here? So you don't have to draw this one because we're going to do it together. I just need you to tell me if you think you'd be able to do that correctly. Okay, so I'm going to try. So I'm seeing persons saying yes, looking out for others. So the thing is here, you have to be careful. You have to try to draw it as close and as balanced as possible. And another thing I need you guys to note is that you must show the dots. So for now, I'm just doing the lines and then I'm going to come back with the dots. Because if you don't put the dots, you won't get your full mark. So I had trying a thing right now, boom. So it ain't perfect, it's not perfect, but manageable. So that's my dots, that's my dot, that's my dots, that's my dot. That's my dot, that's my dot. Before I continue, what else do I need to add? Am I done? What am I missing? So I added on the octagons exactly. I need to go back and add the squares. Okay, so always don't ever just move off. Make sure you look back and make sure you have all of the elements. So I add my 2 additional lines to the top, my 2 additional lines to the bottom. Right? And then we go back and add our dots because it's very important to have your dots. All right, so just like that, we get 2 marks. So just to confirm, is this the correct fourth drawing? And you always go back and make sure you see the same things. Even though mine is looking a little bent up, you will get the marks, right? So we see it always ends off without any squares. So the ends don't have the squares, just the middle. I have all my dots, I have all my lines. So just like that, simple 2 marks. Okay, so let's go where this is the most important aspect of the question. So every time they give you a pattern via a drawing, they're going to make the connections between the elements of the drawings. And if we see here, the 2 elements that we're working with is what? Sticks and dots. So let's look at what we have here. They have figure number of dots, and perimeter of the figure. Now, the truth is, I'm going to be very honest with you. Most times, what this information represents doesn't matter once you understand how the numbers are connected. So some people think that they could go and draw it and count out. Never do that. It's really all about picking up the pattern, which is why that's the name of this question, pattern and sequences. And so I am going to teach you how to do that. So the first thing you're going to do is see if you could identify how numbers are moving from the first row to the second row to the third row for each column separately, because each column will have a separate rule. If we look in the first column, that's the easiest one. You're going to always start off with 1 and always end with n. And what I want you to know about n could represent any number. So for example, we have figure 1, 2, 3, 4, but let's say we want figure 5. That is where n is equal to what? 5. Everybody with me? Let's say we want the 10th figure. If we want the 10th figure, n would be what? N would be 10. Everybody with me? If I want the 100th figure, n would be equal to what? 100. So essentially, n just represents the figure number in the order it comes in this pattern. So confirm with me if you understand the information, because n is extremely important to everything here. And the truth is, n always go in order. So I just want to quickly do a quick side test for you. All right, so we have some numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I put dot, 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 what does dot, dot suggest? Dot, dot, dot suggests you continue to count until whenever, until infinity. You keep going. And then I put comma, and then I put n. Anybody know what comes after n? We don't even know where n stops. N could continue going, but in math, there's a way to represent the number after n. And that would be n plus 1. And how do we know it's n plus 1? Let's look at the numbers we have at the beginning. 1, 2. How do we get from 1 to 2? We add 1. So if n is equal to 1, n plus 1 would just be what? 1 plus 1, which would give us 2. So let's pause right here and let me know if you understand the logic I'm using here. So we're just using letters. If I tell you n is 1, how do we find the next number after n? We add 1. And in this case, here, that would give us what? 2. Let's use another example. Suppose I tell you n is equal to 5. What is n plus 1? Everybody, take a try. You can send it to me directly. You can send it in the chat, but I need everybody to respond and let me know what is n plus 1. What figure would represent n plus 1? Excellent. 6, because it's just a number that comes after. So if we know we can have a number being represented by n, we know a number could be represented by n plus 1, which is the number right after. Can anybody tell me what they think would be the number just before n? Let's take a guess. Let's see if we're thinking. So look, not the digit, the n representation. Okay, so let me give you some assistance. Let's say I have 5. How do I find the number before 5? What is the number before 5? 4, agreed. Everybody agree with that? 4. Now, what is the relationship between 5 and 4? How do I go from 5 to 4? Exactly. I hope everybody's seeing what we're doing here. So if n was 5, how do I get 4? I subtract 1. So 4 represents n minus 1. So I need everybody to confirm if you understand that logic. Just like how the number after n is n plus 1, the number before n would be n minus 1. Now, the truth is a lot of students don't understand this concept, and it makes this question the difficult part because you have to understand how to maneuver around the ends. So let's say we're counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we keep counting until we reach some random number. N minus 1 would be before what? Before n, and after n would be what? N plus 1. Anybody could guess what the next number would be after n plus 1? Take a try, because all of this is connected. Excellent. It would be n plus 2. How did I get n plus 2? Let me break it down quickly. If the number we had is n plus 1, and to go over, I add another 1. We know the only thing I can add is the 1 plus 1, which would give us the 2. And so automatically you could continue counting, because this would therefore become what? What would be the next term? N plus 3. Excellent job. So before we continue, do everybody understand the representation of n and numbers that follow and numbers that come before? Okay, because this is the concept that we're going to use. Before we continue as well, we have to be able to pick up on the trends in numbers. So I'm going to put some numbers, and I want you to tell me what is the pattern or what is the trend. So this one is easy. This one we just counted in ones. All right. What about this one? What's the trend, or what is the pattern? We are adding or multiplying by what? 5. Everybody with me? And how do I represent this now? You can say, oh, I love how y'all use that. So I'm seeing some things that I love. That's why we're talking. Guess what? In this case, it's different because guess what? N is equal to 1 is this. N equal to 2 is the second term. So we have to figure out, what do we do to N to get 5? So this would represent what? 1N. This is going to represent what? 2N. Agree or disagree? Let me see if anybody picking up on something here. I kind of closed by intentionally made a mistake that students does make. Is this correct? Look at the information that I have here. If I am telling you N is 1 for the first term, 1 times 1 is 5. Should I say 1N or should I say something else times N? Shouldn't it be 5N? Look at it. Look at it. All of it is 5N. The only number that is changing is what? N, because N is 1 for the first one. N is 2 for the second one. N is 3 for the third one. Tell me if you're picking it up now. So the pattern is really 5N, but N is changing. Talk to me. Because 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. Everybody seeing it now? This is another important concept. So the pattern is 5N. Remember, the pattern don't change. What changes? The position of each element. So the first position is 1. That's when N is 1. So that's why 5 times 1 is 5. Position 2 is where N is 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. Position 3 is where N is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. So talk to me, talk to me. You see the difference now? You see how N is being manipulated here? So if I continue, all of these numbers represent 5N, but each N varies as we continue. So let's do another one. Let's look at that. So we know the pattern here is 5N. Look at these numbers. And just to make it easy, I'm going to separate N. So the numbers to the top is N, and the numbers to the bottom is the pattern result. So let's try this out. Let me see if y'all could pick it up. So 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, 4, 16, 5, 25, 6, 36. Can anybody pick up the pattern? So when N is 1, the pattern is 1. When N is 2, the pattern is 4. Myrtle says square numbers. Do we agree? Let's go, guys. Talk to me, because if you can't see this, this is another thing you have to be able to see on site. And there's some numbers that we need to know. We need to know all square numbers. So let's go. 7 is what? Let's go in the chat. 7 is 49. We need to know these numbers out of our heads. 8 is 64. Very good. Keep going. 9, 81. 10, 100. What is 11? 121. Keep going. What is 12? 144. What is 13? We got to go until 15, eh? Anybody know 13? Use your calculators. For now, but you have to memorize it. It's 169. 14 is 196. And 15 is 225. You see these numbers here? Let me just highlight them quickly. You see from here, go up. Especially in paper 1, you need to know them. You have to know them. because when they come in the pattern, you need to be able to identify them. So now that we realize that we're squaring, what is the n pattern? What are we doing to n? How do we write it? So before, we know we were using n plus 1. Here we was using 5n. So what should I write here as my pattern? It would be n square. Everybody with me? So as n changes, we see that the pattern number changes. Everybody with me? Okay, excellent. So this is just the foundation. These are the skills that we need to have before we even go and identify some of the stuff in the table. All right, so I'm going to teach you something right now. Let's look at this table here. So we already identify that the table or the column 1 is our n values. And we see n is increasing as we go along by 1. So everybody understand the first column. So let's go confirm. Let me know if you got it, because that's the first column we have to make sure we understand. N always continues to increase by 1. Okay. So now I'm going to teach you the trick or the skill for n for the second column. So step 1. Before you try to make the connection between these two numbers, the first thing you need to do is identify the connection from each number going down. Everybody with me? So let's start off with the first leg. How do I move from 8 to 16? Because you have to figure out if there's a constant. So let's go. I add 8 to get from 8 to 16. I add 8 to get down here. So if I want the next term, what am I going to do? I'm going to do what? I'm going to add 8. Everybody agree with that? So this one is easy. Boom. So what's the answer? What should I write here? 32. Some teachers just take it from this perspective. I will not. Guess where I'm going to go? I am going to go to find out the pattern. Because if I find out the pattern, guess what? You think I'm going to struggle when I reach here? With me? Are you with me? Are you with me? I'm making sense or I'm making sense? If you know the general pattern here, you could calculate anything else. So that is what we're going to do. And this is how you do it. Anytime, I'm going to give you the notes officially, but for now, you can just write this down or you can just follow me to learn. Anytime you realize there's a constant number being added, you're going to say 8n. So everybody understand me so long? Follow me, follow me, follow me. You're going to start off by writing 8n. The next thing you're going to do is find out if there's a constant that you need to add or subtract, and we're going to call a constant C, to connect or make the connection between 1 and 8. Everybody with me? So whatever number we find out that's constant, we put 8n, and this is constant for every single question. As we do more questions, you're going to realize it's the same thing. We keep doing over and over. So let me explain again. Once you have identified that there's a common number being added or subtracting from each level, you write it as 8n. Step 2, you identify the connection between n, the first column, and the second column. And usually you either have to add a number or subtract a number. And sometimes you have to do nothing. So let's decide in this example, should we add or subtract anything to move from 1 to 8? So let's look. If this is n, 8 times 1 is 8. Okay, so far you don't have to add or subtract anything. Let's do n is equal to 2. 2 times 8 is 16. So we didn't have to add anything. 3 times 8 is 24. Everybody with me? 4 times 8 is 32. So in this specific example, what will be my formula? Do I add and subtract anything? No. So what would be my formula? My formula would just be what? 8n. So let's take a minute. Look at it and tell me if you're seeing it. So I'm going to erase all of this for now. And let's just focus on the connection part. So if n is 1, this is 8. N is 2, this is 16. N is 3, this is 24. N is 4, this is 32. So essentially, all we have been doing is what? Multiplying by 8. And so our pattern is what? Our pattern is just 8n. Everybody, let me know if you agree or disagree. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So that was the first column. Our first column was 8n. So guess what we're going to do now? We're going to do the same thing with the second column. So let's take a look. We start off with 8. What do I do to 8 to get to 14? Am I adding something? Am I subtracting anything? Anybody picking up? What do we add? We add 6. Good. Okay, let's move from 14 to 20. How do we move from 14 to 20? We add 6 again. So what would be our next term then? $26. So just so you get 2 marks, easy. And this was solely by just identifying the connection from one number to the next. Everybody with me? So because this is our first one, we're going to move over to the notes that explains a lot of the concepts. So let's take a look here. So these are the notes that I want you guys to take a look at. So if we see here, we realize that the same thing that we said, we are finding the multiples of 8. So every value of n is being multiplied by 8. Everybody see now? Similarly, look at the same explanation. The perimeter increases by 6. So you see you have 8, 8 plus 6. You see, this is an easy example. So somebody said how students just struggle with this question because this look like common sense. I'm going to tell you the truth. It does look so until you get a real question. I'm going to tell you the truth. Because I even was going through some questions, and if you don't know what you're doing, you could get confused. Okay? So everybody following me so far? So we were correct in identifying the 2 patterns. But for the second one, it's a lot different. So let's look at the notes. So it says here, based on the pattern P above, we have to thus far, we have to find the values for n is equal to 1, n is equal to 4 as shown below. Then, based on the question, let's go back up. Which ones do we have to find? We got to find this now, this empty spot, and this empty spot. So that means we need to go backwards. We need to figure out what n would give us these values. So let's take a look at what the notes say. So we identify the pattern, but guess which part is the hard part? We already realized this one easy, right or wrong? This one was straightforward, but without me explaining anything, is this one as straightforward? Be honest. So we're learning backwards. This is what we do. We're looking at the answer and we're going to figure it out backwards, because this is the only way for me to make sure y'all understand the overall concept. So let's go. Only 2 people saying if this look as easy as the other one. No, in it. This one is a perfect example of a compound pattern, because let's go back to the original. Let's see if we could figure it out too. Use what they have here and figure it out. Sorry, let me zoom out a little bit. So this is a perfect example for us to start with. All right, so let's look at this one here now. So let's go back. So now that we understand it's not as straightforward as the 8n, let's take a look. So what do we realize here? Even though we are increasing by 6, we cannot use the whole 8 or 6n thing. Why we can't use the 6n thing? Because 1 times 6 does not give us 8. But let's try something else. CXC did a hard version. I'm going to show you an easier version. So we know this is increased by 6. So let's try this, 6n. But if I use 6n where n is equal to 1, how much more is 8 from 6? So let's try that. Let's see if we get work. So 6, 1 will give me 6. So how much more do I need to make 8? So what should I do? Add 2, right? So that's the case when n is equal to 1. Let's try it out when n is equal to 2. So let's go. 6n plus 2, right? So we're going to use that as our base formula and see if it works. So we're going to say 6 times 2 plus 2. What do we get when we work that out? We get 14. So what we realize, it works for these two. Let's continue to check. What do we get when we use 6, 3 plus 2? Everybody see what's going on here? Let's try the next one. 6, 4 plus 2. How much we can get? So does this formula work? Talk to me. So to be honest, so I'm going to be honest with you. This is how most teachers teach it. But you see how confusing this is? Because let's be real. There is no way. You have to be, I'm going to be honest with you. You have to be an advanced student. And that's why I'm teaching you this way, because it's going to take us a lot longer for y'all to figure it out. If you understand what I'm saying, to pick up this pattern here versus looking at the formula approach. So be honest with me, which one you think you can manage a lot easier and faster? The formula approach or this advanced approach? The other one, right? So the reason I showed you this first is because, again, students think it is easy, but it genuinely is not if you don't know what you're doing. So let's go back. So what would I put here as my formula, guys? My formula based on what I realize again. And how did I get the formula again? Let's go back. Remember, we identify how to move from each step. Each step was just adding 6. So we know we're starting off with 6n. But when I look at the connection between 1 and 8, I know it can't just be 6n, because 6n just gives me 6. It doesn't give me 8. So I needed to find out what was my C. And my C was, in this case, what? Plus 2. When we test it out, it worked for every element that was used. And so our formula then is 6n plus 2. Everybody talk to me. You think you understand how we did this so far? Because we're going to have a lot more examples as we go along. But everybody understand the concept of how to generate the formula, identify the trend, identify what do you do to it to balance n to the formula. So 2 persons telling me yes. If it's a no, please don't hesitate to tell me no. All right, so let's go now. Now that we have the formula, right, guys? Which one you think would be easier? And this is algebra now. If we know to get any value for all of this here, we use this formula and we have the answer. What would be the smart thing to do? Can't we calculate n for this row, knowing that the answer is going to give me 86? What do I mean when I say that? The formula for this column, so anything in this column would have this formula, 6n plus 2. And what we see here is that we have an answer that's equal to what? 86. Can't we calculate n from this? So my maths people, everybody in here, find n for me, please. Because everybody should be able to transpose and find the value of n. So take a try quickly. And for those who don't know, I will go through it with you so you don't have to worry if you don't remember. That's okay. I'm going to work it out and show you. I just want to see if anybody is capable of doing it at this moment without me showing you. So we have a 14, 14. Okay, so now that I have some answers, let's see if we get that. I want n alone. So that means I need to get rid of +2 and this 6. We should remember that we should always get rid of anything at the end. So that means if I get rid of +2, I move it over. So what will I end up with? 6n is equal to 86 minus 2. Because once the 2 is carried over, the signs are changed. So we end up with now 6n is equal to 84. Everybody following me so far? So just do a check-in and let me know if you're following. And so we know if I want to get rid of 6 times n, I divide by 6 on both sides. This is going to cancel, leaving me just with n. So n is equal to 14. So now that we know the value for n, won't we be able to calculate this section here? Anybody could tell me what to do to find this section here? What should we do? Once we have n, we should be able to find anything in the second column because we know the formula. What is the formula for the second? Exactly. So the formula is n times 8. So it just be 8 times 14. And what is 8 times 14? 112. So guess what? 2, 4, 6 max. So looking at this as your first opportunity, that's no problem. So since this was your first look at this question, because we're not done, we're not done. We're definitely not done. But based on what we've done so far, everybody's starting to pick up the general idea of what we need to do. Okay, you're lost. Okay, so let's go back. Which part you're lost by? Did you understand how we got 14? So let's go. Let's take a step back. Where do we need to go back before? So you want me to do a quick recap, everybody? So let's do a quick recap. And don't forget, guys, if you don't understand, tell me. That's my job to go over it, okay? So let's go. Everybody understand how we got these 2 rows so far? How we got 32? How we got 26? You realize that's the easy part? Because it's easy. You just follow the trend and you just keep adding. But what you realize presents the highest level of difficulty. Identifying what? The 2 formulas. Agree or disagree? So let me back check. Everybody understood how I got 8n as our formula? So every single body, let's go. We got 16 people here. It don't make sense you're in class, you're not talking. So let's go. So we understand how we got 8n. Okay, good. Do we understand how we got 6n plus 2? Should I go over this? Do you want me to go over it one more time to just, even if you understand it, you want me to go over it one more time so that we could be more stronger in it? Okay, that's easy stuff. So let's do that then. So let's go. If we want to find the formula, first thing we need to do is to see if there's a number that's constant adding down each row. Everybody with me? That's the first thing you need to find out. So let's look at it. 8 to 14. What do we add to 8 to get to 14? We add 6. We add 6. We add 6. So we agree that we understand that the constant or the number that we are adding each level down is 6. So everybody, let me know. Got it. I need you to tell me got it right now before we continue. Okay. What did I teach you so far when it comes to identifying how to start your formula? So now that you realize there's a constant number, what's the first thing you're going to write for your formula? 6n. Everybody with me? Just like how we found 8n is 6n. So let me know if you understand this part already. But the thing is, when you find 6n, you can't just leave it there, because remember, there's a connection between n and this number here. And if we use the formula like what we were using before, n is 1, that means 6 times 1 is 6. But guess what? That's not the number here. What was the beginning number? 8. So we need to figure out, how do I move from 6 to 8? What do I add or subtract? We add 2. Now remember, we can't just run off with this formula. What do we have to do to make sure this formula is okay to run off with? We need to make sure that it checks off for every single n. Agree or disagree? So let's check it out. When n is 1, let me use black. So when n is equal to 1, what do we end up with? We end up with 6 times 1 plus 2, which is 8. So it checks off for the first one. Let's check to see if it checks off for the second one. 6 times 2 plus 2. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. Let's back check. Yup, it checks off for the second one. Let's try the third one. N is 3. 6 times 3 plus 2. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 plus 2 is 20. So what do we realize? That this is actually what? What is this? This is our formula. Everybody feeling a little bit better now about it? Let me know. 6n plus 2. Okay, good. So y'all know I like to go on the side and get an easier example to teach a harder example. So let me explain something now. Suppose we've been using a formula 2n. What does 2n mean? The number is always being multiplied by what? By 2. Agree or disagree? Suppose I say find n when the pattern is 20. What is n when the pattern is 20? Let's go, guys. Y'all should be able to watch that and tell me. Okay, I see 110, 10, 10. No, it's easy for you to say that because you could look at it and tell. But using maths, what should you have done? You must say that 2n is equal to 20. Right or wrong? Because you must match up the formula with the answer and then do what? Solve for n. Agree or disagree? So if we were to work this out and solve for n, and we should know what solve for n means, we should find the value of n. You would have 2n is equal to 20. How do we find n alone? We divide by 2 on both sides. And so this is going to cancel. So we're going to end up with what? N is equal to 10. Everybody with me? So you see here how we use the idea of transposing to find the value of n. So you see how we use this easy concept? So Cloris, you understand why we did what we did here? Okay, so let's take it back up now. Let's take it back up now to the harder question. So I'm going to erase this, and I hope everybody else is getting a clearer understanding, because that's the purpose of us taking our time. Because when we move on to the other exams, we're going to move a little faster just to get more exposure. So let's go here now. So if we know what two things, let's look at what they give us in the graph or in the table. Which two pieces of information they give us? They only gave us 86. They ain't tell us what n is, and they ain't tell us this one here. But using the information they give us, or what we found, which was what the formula, we can calculate n based on what we just did. Because this is the same column. So that means this is equal to that. Everybody talk to me. If they had given us a number here instead, which two we would have matched up? If they're giving us a number here, we would have matched up these two. Agree or disagree? But remember, you have to use what they gave you. And they gave us 86. And 86 falls under the formula 6n plus 2. So CXC expects you to say 6n plus 2. And the answer is 86. And so what do we do here? We solve for n. So let's, before we even continue, talk to me. Everybody with me? Say with me, let me know, because this is the most important part. This is the most important part. Everything else gonna be easy. This is the part that gonna mash up. Well, let's mash up people. All right, so let's take it from here now. So let's go. This part is easy because this is algebra. We know how to do algebra. We move over the plus 2. When we move over the plus 2, we know it becomes what? Negative 2. So it's going to be 6n is equal to 86 minus 2. So we know 6n is equal to 84. And we know we want n. What happened there? Take it easy. So as I was saying, we divide by 6 on both sides. So n is equal to what? 14. So everybody should be with me now. And so I could replace this value here with what? 14. And we know, once we know what n is, we could calculate here, because what was the formula here? 8 times n. So to find this answer here, all we need to do is take the n that we have. And what is the n that we have? The n that we have is 14 times 8. And that was 112. So out of 10, before we do the last question, how everybody feeling? Remember, this was just our teaching question. So I use it to teach, I use it to explain, but I just want to see if you understand the general sense of it. As we go along, you're going to start to see how easy it's going to become when you understand how to find the formula. Because students think you could look at it and just find it, but that's not true. There's algebra involved. There's a lot of things involved. Okay, so liking the numbers so far. Let's do the last question now. And as you see, it's going to start to look like algebra again. Now, this question, children apparently don't answer at all. They'll just leave it. For any dots figure where n is greater than 1, and I'm going to be honest with you, all this information here is just telling you that the n is going to be positive. Agree or disagree? So that means whatever n value you find, it should never be negative. Everybody understand? That's all it's saying. That all the n value is going to be greater than 1. So you're counting from 1 onwards. So it says here the number of dots is greater than the perimeter. Determine the value of n. So you're calculating n again for a figure in which the difference between D and P is 36. Now, you remember I was telling you the table information don't really matter. Guess where it matters now? It matters here. It says, what other word do you think I should underline? What other word do you think is very important? Difference. Everybody with me? So what does that mean? They said the difference between D and P is 36. So what should I write? D minus P is equal to what? 36. Everybody following me so far? No, we just got to figure out what is D and what is P. Where y'all think we're going to find that? Go back up to the formula, the table. Everybody seeing it now? This is the D. This is the P. Everybody seeing that? So we need to find where, if I subtract these two things, I can get 36. So what two things you think we need to find or use if we want to find n? In the two formulas? That's right, Myrtle. So the formula for D is 6/8n. Everybody understand the connection? Let me pause before I continue. Everybody understand the connection? It's the same thing like what we were doing. We're going to be solving for n. Look what it say. Determine the value of n. That means you're solving for n. So that's why you can't use 32 and you can't use 26. Even though these numbers represent D and these numbers represent P, why can't we use them? Because we are looking for n. So we have to use the n representation of D. We need to use the n representation of P. Makes sense now? Because the truth is, some people could think, well, I could have used any D and P. No, you cannot. You have to use the n representation because they ask you for n. So there we go. So 8n minus 6n plus 2. Keep in mind, all of this in brackets is equal to 36. Now, this is where algebra come in now. Why you think I need to be careful here? Because this is what students, guess the mistake students gonna make. Students gonna just write this. 8n minus 6n plus 2 is equal to 36. Is this correct? Be honest. Would you have written this? Would you have written this like that? And guess why it's wrong? So this is what I'm making sure we identify. You are required to subtract everything in this bracket here. So it's like you're applying the negative to the 6n and you have to apply the negative to the plus 2. Everybody see what I'm saying? So we know that anytime a negative and a positive come together, who's gonna win? Who's gonna win? The negative gonna win. It's like saying this times this times that. Don't forget. That's why it's in the brackets. Everybody with me and understand the clarity, the specifics. This is the specifics now. Because I'm going to be honest with you. You might be able to get this part right, but then you'll come down here and put plus. So that's the mistake you have to always try to avoid. All right. Can we take it from here? Find n for me, please. Everybody. In your books, write this last stage down. This is all I want you to write, and I want you to tell me what is n, because that's something you need to be able to do on your own. So all I need to see is the answer. So I see one person saying 19. Let's go. You could either agree with 19 or present another answer. And I like the more answers, the better, because we could see where we could avoid making mistakes as well. Nobody yet? Okay, Damien got 18. Jerome got 19. Okay, 19. So let's check it out. Let's see what's going on here. So I know in algebra, I could subtract these two terms. That's the first thing you should have done. So you should have gotten 2n minus 2 is equal to 36. Yeah? Then we're going to move over the 2. So it's going to become 2n is equal to 36 plus 2. So 2n is equal to 38. And so if I want n, I divide by 2. So n is equal to 19. So I hope you saw the small mistake that you make and see where you got that answer from. So let me explain something. You see this last part here? This was in January. It most likely means they're going to always ask a question like this. So anytime they ask you to find n, you know what to do. If it's the difference, if it's the sum, if it's the product, the only thing that's going to change is that they're going to give you the different types of things you could do. So they're going to say, oh, the sum of this and this is this, find n. Oh, the product of this and this is this, find n. Oh, the difference of this and this is n. Everybody understand what I'm trying to show you? So it really comes down to what? Your algebra skills. Because even if it was supposed to be product, you should know how to multiply these two things. You should know how to find n after you multiply. Similarly, if it was the sum, we know sum means to do what? Add. So if we had to add these two things and solve for n, them is the kind of things I don't expect y'all to be having an issue with. The only thing I expect you to struggle with is understanding what to do with the information. And based on this example, if you understand what we do here, is just a variety of this exact question that has come. This exact question that's come in different ways. Everybody with me? Because that's it. That's the end of the question. You follow the table, you draw your drawing, you follow the table, you find n. So that is January 2022. Let's look at January 2021. And we're going to go through this a lot faster now. Now look at this. In this year, they didn't ask you to draw, but they're going to ask you for more things. Look at it again. What did they ask us for here? Find n again. Look at what they ask us here now. They take it up another level and they ask you to express the answer in terms of p and pi. So let's go. We're going straight into the table. Now, what you realize about this one now, a lot more columns. A lot more columns, meanwhile, a lot more drama. So let's do it together. We identify the first column is n, you increase them by 1. Everybody got that one? Okay, let's look at the second one. Anybody want to try and tell me what the formula is for this one? Let's do it together. Let's see if we find a trend. How do I move from 5 to 9? We add 4. We add 4. We add 4. So, anybody want to tell me what the formula is before I do it? So we know it's 4. So we start off with 4n, excellent. But look at it. 4n is not 5. So what should I do to the 4n? What should I add to or subtract to the 4n? Minus 1, you sure? I need either minus 1 or plus 1. So let's go. We don't find out it's going to be 4n, but look at it. 4 times 1 is 4, but this answer is 5. How do I move from 4 to 5? I got to do what? I got to add 1. Everybody seeing it now? Let's test it out to see if it's true for the second one. 4n, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. That's correct. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. That's correct. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 1 is 17. That's correct. So guess what we did? We identified what? We identified our formula one time. 4n plus 1. And we know we could do this easy because all we need to do is what? Add 4. So what is my next term? You see, we're killing 2 birds at once. Time. Work smart. So the answer is 21. Everybody with me? How are we feeling? Okay. So let's go. Second column. Next one. I want to see if you are picking up on anything now. Even though instead of a number, we have a symbol, which is pi, the concept is the same. Identify a trend. I want everybody to look at these numbers here and tell me if they pick up the trend. What is the trend y'all seeing? Look at the numbers. 1 and 1, 2 and 4, 3 and 9, 4 and 16, 5 and 25. Anybody seen it? Square numbers, right or wrong? And which numbers are being squared? What type of number? N, exactly. You remember we did this before, but what is the only difference here? The only difference is we have to take in consideration pi. So guess what the formula is? N square pi. Pi is the constant. Pi is the only thing that makes everything with a pi on it. Everybody with me? Let's go, because we got a lot of these we need to go through. The more examples we go through, the stronger you will be. Okay, so T, somebody said no. Okay, let's go. Remember, we're talking about square numbers. So here, we should know 1 square is 1. 2 square is 4. 3 square is 9. 4 square is 16. 5 square is 25. And look at what we're squaring. We are squaring n. You see that? Remember, that's the pattern we're looking for in the formula. So you realize if I come down here, it must be then, look at the same thing I'm doing, it must be then n is also being squared times pi. You see that? It doesn't matter. This could be a P, this could be a Q, this could be a R. It doesn't matter. Same thing. Everybody with me now? Talk to me. All right. Adding odd numbers could work sometimes. It's possible. Let's look at the next one. This one is a bit more challenging. Let's go. What is it we're doing here? What is the pattern here? It's so funny that somebody said odd numbers. I was supposed to show you all that before. Remember when we were looking at the general patterns? There's a general pattern for even numbers and there's a general pattern for odd numbers. So I need y'all to write this down for me, please. The pattern for even numbers. Anybody could guess what it is when it comes to n? What would it be? Just 2n in it. That's even numbers. Everybody with me? That's the pattern for even numbers. So the pattern for odd numbers, and what do you know the relationship between odd and even numbers? So let's look at 2, 3, and 4. How do you move from an even number to an odd number? And I'm going to give you one because there's 2 options and both of them are correct. What do you do to move from an even number to an odd number? You could either add 1 or you could do a subtract 1. Everybody see that? So then the pattern for odd numbers is either 2n, which is any even number, plus 1, or any even number minus 1. This is the pattern for odd numbers. You need to write this down because you need to have it. Everybody with me? So you remember, you see what I tell y'all, like this ain't even like any learning content, is about just understanding the skills and the things you need to know in order to answer this question. So I hope you guys are following and okay. So let me see what CXC did, because they just go very complicated, I find, to be very honest with you. So you see, we did the 4n plus 1, we did that. You see, we got it in our easier way instead of going through all of this. Too much. Similarly, where's the other one? You see, we got it here, pi, where it is, look at here. N, let me zoom in. I want everybody to follow me, okay? So you see how they generated their 4n plus 1, and we did. And then you see they generated the same thing, n square pi. Everybody with me? Let's see how they generated it. See, all of this here for the same thing, because all you need to identify once you know the odd number pattern, you're good to go. Everybody with me? Rather than trying to figure out 1 plus 0 times 2, all these things. So what we realize is that once you know the key skills, what's the key skills? Even pattern, odd pattern, square pattern. And then the one that I show you with the adding constant numbers pattern. Those are the 4 ones that you need to know. So we know even is 2n, odd is 2n minus 1. That's the most favorable one, to be honest. They use that one more than the plus 2, the plus 1, okay? And we know the square one, which is just n square. Everybody stand to realize what I was trying to show you? And there's a reason I'm showing you this, because it's important to understand that there's a more higher level approach for those persons who may want to take it, but to me it's unnecessary because it's a lot of work and time consuming. So you just need to understand that. So let's go back to the question. So as we realize What is the coefficients for each term here? The coefficient for each term is what? An odd number. It's all the odd numbers. Everybody agree? Because it's not like we're skipping any odd numbers. Right or wrong? And if we use the n and calculate it, let's check it out. 2n minus 1. When n is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 minus 1 is 3. When n is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 6 minus 1 is 5. When n is 4, 4 times 2, 8, 8 minus 1 is 7. Right? So that means we could just jump straight into this knowing our patterns. So we would have 2n minus 1. And again, all we got to do after is drop the pi. Yeah? Everybody understand that one? So you see, we're learning as we go along. We're learning the patterns as we go along. We're learning how to pick up on them as we go along. So just let me know if you're good to go before we do the next one. Okay, so seeing some people saying they're ready. Okay, excellent. So let's take a look at the last one. So I'm just going to erase all of this because the truth is all of this is just to teach, but it could be confusing because sometimes there's a connection. So take a look and tell me if you've seen any connection here, because sometimes you see anytime, so let me pause the music. And this is why I want to expand your mind. So we've done the basics. Everything we've done so far is the basics. This last column is obviously something on a higher level. And how do you know? Whenever you realize all the examples before, look how much columns we had. We had 3 columns. Everybody see what I'm saying? Most of them, let me just go to our next exam. Look at the columns that we have here. How much columns y'all seeing? 3 again. Agree or disagree? Because you have to understand the pattern so you know how to think. That's a next year. What y'all realizing about this next year again? How much you seeing? Y'all hearing me? Everybody's with me? And what I'm trying to show you? Look again. We're going to all, I just scrolling too quickly for you to see what people is usually expect. You only get 3. Oh, June 19, everybody failed this question that year, by the way. So before we go, we have to do this one because this question, you see how the trend just changed up this year for no reason. So look at what been coming every year. And this one year, look at what CXC brought. So this is something why I asked you guys to come to see and know what to expect. So every year you get 3 columns. Every year you get 3 columns. So look at what happened in 2021. And this was the year after they didn't have a paper 2. They bring 5. So do you think this is a regular pattern that we're going to be dealing with now? It is not. So I'm just making sure that you understand whenever you see things like this, you have to think outside the box. So our job now is to pick up the pattern. So let's look. That means we need to start looking at connections. So it definitely ain't nothing being added each row. So we got to eliminate that as out. Everybody with me? We know it's not square numbers. We know it's even numbers, but it's not all even numbers. So we can't follow the even number rule. We can't follow the odd number rule. So something special is happening here. Let's look at how these numbers are connected. So let's look at 1 and you get 2. You got 2 and then you get 6. You get 3, but it ain't constant because look at that. 1 times 2 is 2. But 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is not 6. 3 times 2 is 12. 3 times 2 is 6, sorry, but this is 12. 4 times 2 is 8, but this is what? 20. So it's not being multiplied by a constant. So it can't be that. Let's see if we could find another connection. Let me see. Let's look at the connection between these two. If I add these two, I get 2. If I add these two, I get 7. If I add these two, I get 14. So that's not the connection. Let's look at this and this. Let's look at the coefficients. 1 and 1 is 2. 2 and 4 is 6. 3 and 9 is 12. 4 and 16 is 20. Anybody seeing anything? Anybody seeing anything? I seen it. Remember, maths, you always got more than one approach. There's more than one approach. So there's the complicated or try to figure out the formula, or you could look at it and see if you find the pattern. So I hope y'all understand the point I'm making. If you can't figure it out one way, there's another way. There's always another way. Everybody seeing it now? So what do you think the answer for that gonna be? And we're gonna check it. So after you tell me, we're gonna go and look at the answer and see if it's true. So before we continue, we know the answer for this one. What would the answer for this one be? For here? What's the answer for here? Excellent, excellent, excellent. 9 pi. Boom. So what would you put as the answer for here now? Based on what we've been realizing. 30 pi. Are we going to stop and we're going to go look for the answer right now? Because, you know, as I was telling some students, you got some people that's put themselves through so much unnecessary stress. Guys, what is that? What is that? What did we do there? Hello? Are you with me? Are you with me? So now let's figure out how we could get to this step here. So let's go back and figure out how we could figure that out. So you don't pick up the pattern. So what are the two things that you were adding? What were you adding? We were adding n and what? N square. That ain't true. That ain't the two things we were adding. Talk to me if you see it. Remember, that's what we were adding. N plus n square. So guess what I am going to do here? Because this is where the maths come in now. If you put n plus n square, we don't usually leave answers like that. What do we always do? We always factorize. Agree or disagree? So if I factorize this, what is common between n and n square? N, right? So if I pull out n, and you pull out n from n, you're going to end up with what? 1. Plus, if I pull out n from n square, I left back with n. So that is our answer, n. And instead of putting 1 plus n, because that's kind of ugly, how would you rate it instead? In n plus 1, because you know why? We know how we just identify numbers and put pi. So this one was a very difficult year, guys. This year was done very poorly because students were caught off guard with these 5 columns. And I hope you guys see the level of difficulty that can come. This was an unordinary year, again, because this exam year was very difficult. So this is probably the hardest question in this nature that can come. So if you could understand what to do with a question like this, you should be able to manage anything else. Everybody with me? All right, so let's go on to the calculation part. We were successful in answering all of our formulas. We were successful in identifying. Look how easy it is to get 7 marks, guys. 7 marks. 7 marks. And students, I'm telling you, they just fumble this question a lot. Question 7 should be the question you should do immediately. Guaranteed 10 marks out of 100 because the entire paper is 100 marks. Okay. And you should also, when you're doing your exam, track the marks that you think you get for facts. Like, you know, when you feel confident and you think you got 100%, always take off the question, be like, yeah, I get all 10 marks or I get 9 out of 10. That's how I do my exams. when I end a question, I rate myself of how much marks I think I got out of the total, because then when you're finished, you could see, okay, I need more if I want a 1. I need more if I want to pass. So that's a strategy you need to take, and we're going to also incorporate during mock exams. All right, so let's do this one. We should know what to do with here, right? We should know what to do. So it says determine the value of n when the number of dots in the figure n is 54. So here we get a number and we figure n. So we need to go to the table and figure out which formula we need to use. And so I'm going to number it, and you're going to tell me which formula to use. 1, 2, well, not 1, but I just label in every column so you could tell me. I'm going to go back up. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's go back to the question, and you're going to tell me which one you're going to use, which formula you're going to use. Determine the value of n when the number of dots in the figure. So I hope you guys pick up what you're supposed to be looking for. Which column formula should you use? Because they spoke about something. The second one. Everybody agree? Because what are they talking about? They gave us a number of dots. So it must be the 4n plus 1. Everybody with me? So it's the same thing like before. You say 4n plus 1 is equal to what? 541. Everybody find my answer, please. Get your books out, find the answer. Find n. So I got one answer so far. And keep in mind, there's a reason I'm asking you to find these things, because the more you practice finding and solving, the stronger you would be in the exam. And for some reason, students are very slow with this specific skill. So you have to practice how to find any variable in any equation. Nobody else have the answer yet? Okay, very good. Okay, so let's see if that's correct. So we have 4n plus 1. We get rid of the plus 1 first by moving it over. When you move it over, and keep in mind, maths is a do subject. If you don't just watch, it's not going to be useful to you. You might remember 1 or 2 things, but you learn and you're going to remember better when you do it. So we're going to end up with 4n is equal to 541 minus 1. So 4n is equal to 540. Then you divide by 4 on both sides. So n is equal to 135. Just like that. 2 marks in the bag. All right, so let's look at the last one. And you realize, because they didn't ask us to draw, they gave us an additional question for 1 mark. But so far, you should at least have your 9 full marks out of 10, right? So let's look at what they're asking us for. Write down in terms of P and pi, Ms. V. Okay, no problem. Everybody hearing me? Anybody else having issues hearing? Okay. Okay, I guess it's based on where you are in the internet, so it may be a little slow or lagging. Okay. All right, so let's look at it now. Right, in terms of P and pi, the area of the largest circle in figure 3P. So first thing first, even me reading this one, what all this drama is, where they get 3P from, where this P thing come from. So we need to go do some investigating. So if we look at our table, I don't see nothing but P anywhere. So we need to look at the figure and see if we could identify what they mean by 3P. So I guess 3P is just our new n. So let's just take a look. It is always important to back check everywhere, okay? So we're not seeing any P's here. So we need to identify So based on what we're doing, what do we think we need to focus on either way? So even though we don't see any P's, because we're going to make sense of it, but where do you think is our starting point? Which column should we be looking at? Excellent, because obviously exactly what they're talking about is where. Everybody see that? Write down in terms of P and pi, the area of the largest circle in 3P. And so the area of outer largest circle is column 3. Everybody see that? So that means what should I write down first? I should be writing down what? N square pi. Agree or disagree? All right, just for the purpose of going through this quickly, because I really want us to get to the question before. So let's just look at what you're supposed to do here. So this is what I was explaining to you. Instead of N, you're going to be using 3P. Everybody see what I mean? Because what they're saying is that there's a 3P figure. So just like, oh, you have a figure 4, figure 5, there's a figure 3P. Everybody understand what I'm saying? So what I need you to do is instead of writing N, you just got to switch it out with the P. So look at how simple that is. Where is it? Where is it? Look how simple that is here. That's why it's only 1 mark. Everybody see what I mean? Look at it here. In figure 3P, just like how they say, in figure 5, N is what? N is equal to 5. Everybody understand now? So if they say figure 3P, that means that N is equal to what? 3P. That's the only thing that you need to just make sure you ain't get confused by. Everybody understand what I'm trying to say? So that's why they have it here. In figure 3P, N is 3P. That's why it's 3P. So all you need to do is substitute, and instead of having N square, you would have 3P square. And we should know 3P square means you realize the square is not just on the P. The square is over everything. So that means it's 3P times 3P, because I'm going to be honest with you, most students would write 3P square pi, which is wrong. So the actual answer is 9P square pi. All right, so we're done with another very, very hard. This is a hard year. I promise you every year is a lot easier than this one. So out of 10, how do you feel about this more difficult question? Because the next question, we should be able to move through a lot faster. Okay. I'm watching, so send me a feedback, Okay, excellent. Now be honest, when you first look at this question, did you expect all of this thing to be what you're supposed to do for question 7? Yep. That's why students who think, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the reason why you would see a lot of students being shocked by their grade is because when they think they're doing what they're supposed to do, they're actually not. And this is the question that most students just fumble, because again, they think it's just oh, you're guessing, you're fully in, but they don't really understand how technical it actually is. All right, so this question is pretty simple. 3 columns alone. Only one time they ask you to find N. So we could run through this quickly. I think we're going to do this one and just skip to the 19th year and end class. Oh, the answer for C, oh, it was the 9. It was the, look at here. Look at right here. All you got to do is substitute the N for 3P and you just simplify it. So this is the answer here. Okay. All right. So guess what I need y'all to do for me? If I ask y'all to sketch the answer in your books, but you see your books don't really have grids, but I'll ask everybody, do you know what to do for figure 4? Do you think you'll be able to draw figure 4 correctly? Kinda. Okay, there's a option to draw on my there's an option to draw on my screen. Anybody would like to volunteer? Because I don't want to be the only one just drawing. I want to see and get proof that y'all understanding and learning. So is there anybody willing to do the drawing on all of our screens? When you go to Zoom, there's this pen thing called annotate. You could click on it and you could draw. So Kayla, okay, so Kayla and Austin. Okay, so Kayla, draw the first one. So let's go. We're gonna do a contribution, a collective thing. So one of the things I want you guys to realize is every time you add on, even if it's not a straight line, you could go ahead. So go ahead, Kayla. So Kayla gonna do this one. We're not gonna fuss about how straight the lines are. We just need to make sure the actual image is there. So one of the things you need to note is that before you add on, you must draw what's there. So you have to draw this first and then add on. So go ahead quickly. I think there's an option to use a straight line, no? I'll take that. I'll take that. Keep going. Oh yes, there's a line option for you. If you go inside of shapes, you could get a straight line. You seen it? Okay, all right. So erase it and let T do it. Some people draw it in your, okay, excellent. Some people drawing it in their books and sending it to me. I think everybody could do that. Everybody draw it in your books. You have to make sure your lines as well is darker than the ones on the paper, because that's another thing that students does thing. So I'm just gonna draw it just to make up for the time so we can move along quickly. So I'll just trace over. One thing I appreciate is that you maintain the spacing. There's 2 spaces between each. How much are we drawing? 4? So I'll just do all of the huts one time. Just draw this straight across. All right, everybody agree with this? Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, Kayla, erase this little hot thing else it's gonna stalk us for the rest of our lives. So easy, just so you get 2 marks. Let's go straight to the table. Let's see if we could identify the trend and work it out together and move along quickly. So let's go. Let's do, and you see what I love here? They skip the 4. So let's go. Anybody could pick up the trend for the first column. So I see Myrtle dropping what she thinks. Let's go, everybody. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So we add in 5. Good. So what would be the formula if we're adding 5? So we know we're going to start off with what? 5n. Agreed? No problem. This is just our souvenir for the class today. This little hot thing. All right, but is the answer 5n? No, because 1 times 5 is 5. So what do we do to 5 to get 6? We add 1. Everybody see that? Let's check to see if it's true. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 plus 1 is 16. So our formula is 5n plus 1. Everybody see that? Who could tell me the next formula for the perimeter? What's the formula for the perimeter? Come on, everybody, let's go, let's go. This is your opportunity to put what you've learned to test. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, let's see. So is there a constant? Yes, there's a plus 3 constant. So I know it's going to be 3n, but 1 times 3 is 3. So what do I do to 3 to get 5? I add 2. Let's back check. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. Very good. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. So that's the formula. 3n plus 2. Very good. So can we take it from there then? So since we know the formula, you realize we can't just say add 5 here again because we don't have the fourth term. So how do we calculate this answer here? We substitute 5 into the formula. So somebody, what's my answer? Get your calculators, get your workings going. You realize we're moving through a lot faster. Anybody else got 26? Okay, yes. So our answer, awesome people, is 26. How did we get that? Let's come to the side. 5, n is 5, so we substitute 5 plus 1, 25 plus 1, 26. Okay, what is the answer for here now? I have one person so far. Let's go, everybody. That's 2, 3, 4. Excellent. You use the formula again. What's the formula? 3n plus 2. What is n? N is 5. So 3 times 5 plus 2. So your answer is 17. Excellent. So guess what we got to do now? They gave us 66 under the second column. So we need to find n and then find this. So everybody find n for me, please. Okay, so we have one person getting 13. Everybody, your job is to get your own answer. Make sure you can get it on your own. Excellent job. Excellent job. And for those persons who are not sure, let me work it out. So we're using this formula, 5n plus 1. We equate it to 66 and we solve accordingly, right? So we move over the plus 1, so it becomes 5n is equal to 66 minus 1. So 5n is equal to 65. We divide by 5, divided by 5. So n is equal to 13, sorry. So n is equal to 13. Very good. So now that we know n, we could calculate the last part. So everybody give me my answer, please, for this part here. Excellent. So we just said 3n plus 2. We substitute 41 for 13, sorry, plus 2. 3 times this is what? 39. 39 plus 2, 41. So our answer is 41. Let's finish up the last one, and I think I'm going to end class here today. Let me see how much questions we got. We only got through 2. I guess we'd spend some time on the first one because we were learning. Oh, we got through 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, not bad. So let's go into the next one. So let's go, and we are done here. Write a simplified expression in terms of n for the diff. You realize again, the difference between the number of lines and the perimeter in the figure. right? So here they didn't give us what is equal to, they just want us to simplify it to get one equation. Everybody with me? So we go back to the question, the table, and which one they say? The difference between what again? Between the number of lines. So let me just write that, number of lines and the perimeter. So what was the number of lines? The number of lines was just L. Or what was L? It's L minus P, yeah, which is 5n plus 1. 5n plus 1 minus P, which is 3n plus 2. So we should know how to handle this. This little house thing killing me, you know, and it making me happy at the same time. Like, so let's go. Keeping in mind again, guys, we have to subtract all of that from all of that. Everybody with me? So we should remember the concept of what? Applying the negative sign to the 3 and the negative sign to the 2. Everybody agree? Have I lost you guys? Are you still here with me? So what this really is 5n plus 1 minus 3n minus 2. And then we know in algebra, what should we do? Group all our like terms. So this will become 5n minus 3n plus 1 minus 2. And the answer for the first section is going to be 2n. But the answer for this part is going to be minus 1. Don't be afraid to use your calculators because you know plus 1 minus 2, negative 1. So that's your final answer, which Myrtle posted earlier. Excellent job. So you got your 2 marks. Let's go. Out of 10, how you feel? So you reach an 8 now, 7.5. Okay. And as you guys post your ranking, also let me know how you're feeling about the topic itself. Do you feel a little bit stronger? Do you start to understand what you're required to do? Okay. Or you don't like the part where you got to do the calculations after the table? A little bit stronger. So let me just do a quick check off of what years that we did, because remember, at some point in time, we're gonna do a recap of all of this. So I just want to see what years we did. So we did January 2022, we did January 21, and we did June 21. You know, we got a little checklist every Sunday that we check off. So let's see where we're at. This little hosting again. So this is a paper I wanted us to do, but we didn't get to do. Or did we do that? I think we did it. Did we or did we not? I don't think we did it. So investigation tonight. We did 22, 21. We did these 3. Y'all want to do one last one? Or y'all want to end here? Okay, one more. Okay, let's do one more. Let's try 2019 by. I'm gonna be honest. I was watching it and I understand it myself, but I was trying to figure out how to teach it to make it easier to understand. You know that kind of way? Like, you know how I always use an easy example to teach something hard? That one was a little tricky. Let me see. Let me see. Which one I want to try? Was this January 2018? Let's try this one. Yeah, let's try this one. Let's try this one. But this one, y'all have to do on your own. So this is our class activity for today. So you guys, one, you have to draw the drawing and send it to me. So this is known for me to see what you're really learning, what you really understand. Should I give her this one or this hard one here? What should I do? Let me see. I want to give y'all a challenging one, but nothing too hard. Okay, let's do this one. This one easy. This is the same thing we've been doing all day. So let's go. This is the challenge. So everybody, you have to draw this in your book. Draw the 4 figure in your book and you have to send me a picture now. And I'm going to time it. You have 2 minutes. So everybody who is here, remember this is for you and your growth. So it's important for you to do it, okay? While you guys do this, I just want to remind you guys that all of this plus the answers. So let's say you want to practice some more on your own. Remember, I gave you guys this website. Everything is here, including the explanation, including the answer. So you don't have to like wait until I do the rest of the questions. You could always do some practice on your own and you could be guided by the answers on the sheet, okay? If you want me to send you the website again, that's no problem. Too easy. Just ask me, send me a message. All right, so some answers are rolling in. Okay, what I'm seeing so far is looking good. This is a little tricky, yeah? Anybody having problems? Are you're getting through with your drawing? It don't have to be completely perfect. It just needs to be a sketch. So I'm gonna start trying. How much steps? 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait there. This is 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I get some more images coming in, looking strong. Let me see. One, 2, 3. Excellent. Liking what I'm seeing so far. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Let me see. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Okay. Everything I'm seeing so far, you guys are going right. Waiting for everybody to send me yours. Come on. Matters are doing subject. Send me a thing. It's a lot harder than it looks, eh? Because me here wondering what's going on with my thing here. I'm going good, right? I think so. So my plan is to first draw what they have. That's the plan. Draw what they have. I don't like how these 2 lines come out. It's too long. Yeah. One, 2. Okay, so this is what they have at the moment. Right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I need to now add on another. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that's it. So difficulty level, how everybody was able to manage. Let me see. Okay, I see so 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Oh, no. I see a mistake. Yeah, you got to do it over. Okay, hold on. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. All right. So some people were having some difficulties, but I hope you see how to do it. You try to draw what's there and then you add on the next level. Okay. Some people may have a little bit more of a challenge than others. Okay. Ready for the next part? Get the answer for all the empty spaces. Let me underline the empty spaces. The first thing I want is the two formulas. So everybody send me the formula for this first. That's what I want first. I want the formulas first. So the first formula, work it out now. Excellent. Okay, so I get 2 persons so far, 3. Remember, this is your opportunity to show me that you know what you're doing, that this session was productive, that you understand, that you can handle this exam on this question on your own. Anybody else before I continue? All right, your time is up. Everybody should have been able to generate the formula. So let's go. Step 1, for the first one, let's see if there's a trend. This is a +2. This is a +2. So I know I have a 2n going on, but 2 times 1 is 2. So I need to add 1 more to get 3. Let's back check. I know this is 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. Excellent. So my formula is 2n plus 1. Next formula, please. See, some persons done send it already. Let's go. So 1 person sent it so far. What's the formula for here? Remember, once you find the formula, you're setting yourself up to lock the question in itself. Okay, Kayla, I see your answer. Very good. So I have 2 answers so far. Austin received yours as well. Excellent. 1, 2, 3, 4. Myrtle, I see you. Ozzy, check it. Okay, good. So let's try it. What do we do to get from 8 to 4? We add 4, right? We add 4. So we know it's 4n. But 4 times 1 is 4. How much do I have to add to 4 to get to 8? I got to add 4 more. Everybody see that? So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 4 is 16. So we know that's right. So our formula is 4n plus 4. Very good. Now everybody send me on the Zoom chat so it's easier for me to manage, because going back and forth with my phone for now, since we could type it in the chat, you could type it in the chat in Zoom. So let's go. Now that we've done that, what is my answer for here? That's one answer so far. 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent job. We substitute 4 into our formula. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 9. Excellent. Very good, everybody. Next one. Last one. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 4, 20. Excellent. So just like that, 6 marks in the bag. Actually, not even 6. 8 marks in the bag. All right, last one. Determine the relationship between the number of squares S and the perimeter of a figure. This question is a lot different now, but I want you to try and tell me if you could figure it out without me telling you. Determine, let me zoom in a little bit. Determine the relationship between the number of squares, which is these numbers, and these numbers over here. I don't figure it out. When they say relationship, do you know that means a formula, right? There's a formula that moves these numbers to these numbers. It's the same thing we've been doing. What is the relationship? That connects 3 to 8. What do you do to 3 that gives you 8? And if you do the same thing to 5, do you get 12? If you do the same thing to 4, 7, do you get 16? If you do the same thing to 9, could you get 20? Look at it. Okay, Janella said add 5. But if I add 5 to 5, I don't get 12. So good try. Try again. What do you do to 3 to get to 8? It's a combination of things. So test them out. Excellent job, Austin. That's it. Everybody see what he just do? Excellent. If you was going to say that too, excellent. If you saw it, everybody seen it now? But you know how all of us gonna fail? Guess why all of us gonna fail? Nobody ain't even tell me that we ain't get the answer for this and this. All right, what happening? We failing. So we ain't get 6 marks, we get 4 marks. And the truth is this has happened in the exam. What is the answers? What is N? So sorry about that. Everybody calculate N for me, please. What is N? N is 21. Thank you very much. Very good. And this one over here, how much is this? Since N is 21, Myrtle got 88. Do we agree? Lysandra says 88. Okay, so we agreeing because when we substitute 21, 4 times 21 is 44. 44 plus 4 is 88. Excellent. All right, so let's get back to this awesome stuff here. Now, the relationship between 3 and 8. What do you do to 3 to get 8? If you multiply 3 by 2 and you add 2, 3 times 2 is 6, 6 plus 2 is 8. If you multiply 5 by 2 and you add 2, what do you get? You get 12, because 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 12. If you multiply by 2 and add 2, what do you get? 7 times 2 is 14, 14 plus 2 is 16. So how do we write that as an equation now? Let me see if we think it. So we understand the connection. Oh, somebody has got a next pattern. I love that, because you could get more than one. So what is the first pattern based on what we just identify? And then Jerome, I would like you to share what your pattern is. Let's see if it works. So who could tell me what the N pattern is? And the truth is, you could actually write it in words. You could actually say multiply S, because you realize you can't say N. Let me ask you a question here. Let me pause for a cause. If you wanted to write this down, you could use words and you could say multiply S by 2, then add 2. Everybody agree or disagree? And why is it S? Because we are not multiplying N by 2 and then adding 2. Agree or disagree? So we could use the formula, because S is 2n plus 1. Agreed? S times 2 plus 2 is the same thing as saying 2n plus 1 times 2 plus 2. And you simplify this, and then that would be your answer, which would be, well, actually, everybody tell me, what is this simplified? That's the last thing we're going to do, since this is our last question. So you realize there's different approach. Oh, Jerome got a very, that's actually the advanced answer, by the way. Could you share that with the group, please? Could you type it and send it to everybody so they could see while they work? That's the advanced answer. Anybody simplify this yet? So what we're going to end up with is 4n plus 2 plus 2, which is simply what? 4n plus 4, which is the same thing as saying 4n plus 1. Did y'all get this? Or at least that? Remember, one of the things you always remember, you had to factorize in the end. You're always trying to get either n or n plus 1. So when you reach n4, n plus 4, the first thing that you should think about is I could factorize this out so that it could look like this. Okay? Let's see if it's true. 4n plus 1. N is 1. 4 times 2, because n is 1. So 4 times 2 is 8. Excellent. 4 times n plus 1. 4 times 3 is 12. Hey. 4 times n plus 1. And 4 times 4 is 16. Hey. So what Jerome did is he realized that is almost like accumulating. So he's saying, let me erase all of this. He's saying is when you add consecutive numbers. But is it true? Let's see. He's saying when I add 3 plus 5, I get 8. When I add 5 plus 7, I get 12. When I add 7 plus 9, I get 16. Everybody see that? But is it really n and n plus 1? Is it that what we added? The only mistake you make is that we're not adding n plus n1 plus n2. What are you adding? You're adding S 1 plus S or Sn plus Sn plus 1. That's actually what you're adding. Sn plus Sn plus 1. Everybody understand what he just did here? And because he needs to realize we're not adding the n's, it's the s's that we're adding. So that's a different way as well. That's the advanced way, actually. All right, so that's it for today's class, guys. Final ranking in terms of the overall understanding of drawing the patterns on your own, generating the digits for the table by yourself, and answering the final questions. Out of 10, do you feel moving forward you should be able to answer this question confidently, knowing what to expect? What year this was that we just did just now? June 18. Let me just tick that off. June 18. So we know that we did that. So we did June 18. Where is it? We did May 18. All right. So these are, I always recommend to students, it's important to look at least 10 papers. We've been trying to do some, so we did 4 tonight. So you have to do some on your own. All right, so that's it for that tonight. I am going to send everybody a mock exam with these questions because the basic questions in section 1, we got to mash up. So these are the questions you're going to get, and you have until next week, Sunday, to send it to me. Question 1. And we should know what question 1 is. Question 1 is, based on what we see here, it is number theory and consumer. So the next mock exam is question 1, question 2 on algebra, question 4, question 5, and question 7. You need to be extremely strong in these. So you have until next week, Sunday, to send me the answers, all for the purpose of practicing. Thank you guys for being here, and I hope it was useful and that you learn. See you guys next week, Sunday. Bye.